And it seemed like every day had an episode like that somewhere along the way. It was just a high, low, and
That was the voice of Buffalo, New York area trucker David May speaking to the range of emotion delivered by his 2024 participation in what is the annual effort of Wreaths Across America. The Maine headquartered organization for many years now has been building momentum across the nation to honor fallen U.S. military members by laying wreaths on graves and ceremonies at cemeteries all across the country. Trucking plays a big volunteer role in it for certain, with wreath deliveries from Maine to points far afield, this year reaching nearly 5,600 sites according to Wreaths Across America organizers. The big day for the 2025 effort was this past Saturday, December 13th, and for this Overdrive Radio podcast, we're marking another big haul for participating truckers and trucking companies by revisiting David May's experience in 2024, where he was part of the convoy moving out from Maine toward Arlington National Cemetery for the big event held there annually. To give you an idea of the scale of that one, this year, organizers noted, wreaths were placed on 265,000 individual headstones there in Arlington through the work of 30,000 volunteers. That haul alone is a massive undertaking, no doubt. I'm Todd Dills, your Overdrive Radio host as usual, and I'll emphasize that honoring the memory of the fallen isn't the only aim of the Wreaths organization. Here's the goal in full: to remember the fallen, honor those who serve, and teach the next generation the value of freedom. Through my conversation with May, we'll get quite a bit of all of that. Remember, honor, teach. Yet also a window on just what his experience of the 2024 convoy toward Arlington was like. May's hauled day to day for XPO going back decades to when he was with Convoy Freight before the XPO buyout, as you'll hear. He's a past America's Road Team captain, too, where he first learned about Wreaths Across America in its early days. In 2024, he hauled wreaths in the convoy piloting the camouflage-wrapped Workforce Heroes truck. But it's the individual experience here, the veterans met and the fallen remembered, that most stand out.
It starts off in Maine, and it's a large convoy. I think it's over 200 trucks, vehicles. And as the convoy goes on towards Arlington, different branches, different groups will break off heading to different parts of the country, and then there'll be a smaller group that continues on all the way to the end and you know, lays a wreath in Arlington and the ceremonies there. Actually, last year was my first year. It was the first time I've gone. I've heard about it from other road team captains, America's road team captains, and every driver that ever told me about it was so touched and just overwhelmed with the experience, and we're so grateful that they had an opportunity to do it. So when the opportunity came up for me, I thought it was wonderful. So I was just excited to do it, and the experience was way more than I ever thought. It was an emotional roller coaster ride every day. Every day you're extremely happy, and every day there's something that makes you extremely sad. And it's I guess if you don't do it, it's hard to explain it, but it was wonderful.
On the other side of a break, we'll dive into David May's trucking past, starting with his own military experience in the 1970s, where he first worked behind the wheel. So keep tuned.
Winter doesn't wait, and neither should you. Treat now with Howe's Diesel Treat to prevent your fuel from gelling, and keep using it at every fill-up this winter to make sure you're always running strong when the cold sets in. But if you waited too long to treat your fuel and get hit with a winter emergency, Howe's Diesel Lifeline works fast, reliquefying gelled fuel and de-icing frozen filters to get you moving again. Stay prepared with complete winter readiness from Howe's. Prevention and rescue trusted by drivers everywhere, because downtime isn't an option.
You can find more information about the Howe's Company's full line of fuel treatments via HOWES, HowesProducts.com. Here's David May, dropping back to the beginning of his trucking experience in the 1970s.
Well, trucking for me actually started in the military. So back in 76, I graduated from high school, and the economy was terrible. My hometown is Buffalo, New York, and it was hit exceptionally hard. It was very industrial. A lot of those jobs were being moved away. There wasn't a lot of opportunities. College wasn't in my picture at that time. The military was something that was a good part of my family was in, from World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. I always had an interest in that. And the other interest I had was truck driving. So by joining the military, I got to do both. They put me in a truck back in the 70s, and I pretty much haven't been out since. So and it's been 45 years in the industry now for me. I still enjoy it. Okay. I was stationed, my first station was for basic training in school, was in New Jersey. From there, I moved down to Newport News, Virginia, and into 508 transportation. And the driving of tractor trailers kind of was unexpected. I was a private, I was driving a Jeep. I was down at a motor pool one day, and the sergeant that was supposed to be driving the semi didn't show up. So as a military, the truck master called me in. He told me I was a tractor trailer driver. I went to school. He said, "That's your truck over there." He said, "You're late. You better get going."
Okay.
So that was my first day out.
How long were you in?
I was in for 3 years. After Virginia, then I was shipped overseas. I was stationed out of Frankfurt, Germany. And over there, I drove all kinds of different vehicles. I drove tractor trailer, other trucks, buses, whatever they needed me to drive. That's what I did. When I came back, it was the end of '79, and the recession was terrible. The unemployment, I think, was in the teens. It was difficult to find a job. Truck driving, you just couldn't find a job. So what I did, I took a labor job for a little bit, and then I started to look for a place that would hire me as a driver. And I found a place that was right around the corner from me. And I went over there and I put an application in. And, I would drive by there every day. Now, this place, the guy who road tested everybody was the owner's son. And the owner's son, he drove the truck when they didn't have a driver. So I would drive by and I'd see him out there and he'd be road testing a new driver. And I thought, boy, I'll try someplace else. I drove by a few days later and I seen the truck was in an accident. And I seen the ad was back in the paper. So I rushed back over, I put another application in, and I hoped to hear from him. And it was the same kind of situation. I drove by and I seen a new guy get hired, and I seen a new guy driving a truck, and then I seen the owner's son, and then I'd see the new guy, and then the owner's son. Well, the new guy wasn't too dependable. So the ad was back in the paper. Yeah. So then the next day I went back and I filled out an application and I turned it in. I asked to speak to the owner's son. I said, it seems to me you need a good truck driver. I said, I'm a good truck driver. I said, can you tell me why you haven't called me? And the guy was really kind of stunned, and he didn't know what to say at first. And he invited me, he said, come in my office. He said, let me look at your application. So he read through it, and he's reading. He says, well, here's the reason right here. He said, all your experience is in the military. He says, I can't verify your experience. I said, sure you can. I said, get in the truck. Give me a road test. Yeah. And once again, and he was kind of stunned, but he agreed to do it. And again, right. We went out. He gave me one lengthy road test. And when we got all done, he got out of the cab. He walked over and he shook my hand. He said, you're a good truck driver. He said, would you like a job? I said, sir, that's kind of what I've been trying to tell you.
Yeah, third time's the charm, it sounds like, David. Yeah, that was, I think if I was counting correctly, that was the third time you went over there. Or third time you put in an application anyway.
It was, and I loved the job, and they were great to me, but it just wasn't going to provide me the future that I needed for my family, health insurance, wanting to buy a home of my own. So I kept working for them, and I tried to find another job, but like I said, it was difficult. But I found a company that was paying good wages and benefits, and there were a few companies that was hiring on a regular basis. So I went over, I just targeted them, and I started putting applications in there. And I would go back, and the secretary got used to me. I'd always go and ask for one to fill out and two to take home. I kept doing that, and then one day he called me up, and he says, I guess you want to work for us. He said, I've been going through my files. He goes, you got 54 applications in here. He says, I guess you want to work for us. And I told him the same thing. I said, sir, I said, that's what I've been trying to tell you. And I told him, I said, if you give me this job, I'm going to work hard for you. Right. And I did. I worked hard for him for 17 years, until business conditions changed and they didn't employ drivers anymore. And that's when I took a position with Convoy Freight, which was acquired by XPO. That was 28 years ago. And I'm still there today. So I guess I enjoy it. When I first started working there, it was a young family. I have a son born with disabilities. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. So I had an opportunity to run line haul. So I was pulling double trailers, through New York, Canada, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Well, it gave me an opportunity to make more money to move into a bigger house and get the things we need as our family grew. But as our family grew, we have the ability every year to select a different type of run. So about 15 years ago, I moved into the city, and now I have, pretty much a regular lifestyle as far as driving goes. It's Monday to Friday, start at 7 o'clock. I usually work 8 or 9 hours, and I have my weekends off. So, in the first part, it was, compensation was more important, and now it was family life became more important. So I had the ability to switch, and now I'm just in the city, and I pretty much service the same group of people every week, which, after a while you become friends and you're comfortable and it's enjoyable. And,
right.
you can, it's when you're enjoying people, it's not so much like work. Our terminal's in Tonawanda, which is just a suburb of Buffalo, New York. And I pretty much stay in Western New York.
And backing up a little bit from where David May is today in his decades-long career, several years into his tenure with then Convoy Freight, he was approached by the company about a potential nomination to represent the company as part of the America's Road Team of Ambassadors, a program of the American Trucking Associations, through whose fellow road team captains he would ultimately learn about Wreaths Across America and take part in the event in 2024.
My employer approached me about it, and it was the credentials they're looking for is an accident-free career, or an excellent safety career, and they're looking for you have to have the ability to represent the industry. There's some public speaking and interviews involved, and they put your application forward. I don't know today how many they get, but back then I think they used to get about 3,000 for a position, and when I was doing it was only 12 people selected, and they would send that forward, and the ATA would select about 30 at the time. And then you would go to Washington, and it would be a competition where you would have to do presentations in front of a selection panel. You would have to do mock interviews, to show how you would represent the industry. And from that, they would select those 12 people, and who you would go on for a number of years to represent the industry. And it was really a challenge for me because, as a truck driver, it's way outside of your, the box that you live in. But it was exciting and it was rewarding. I had so many opportunities to be involved in the industry, to be involved in the national CDL panel, to speak on behalf of other drivers, to speak at Wounded Warriors Conference, did different military events, and just help people learn how to share the road safely and let them know the importance of what we do and how much our job affects their lives. And I was always proud of doing that.
You heard about, or you learned more about the trucking kind of partnership with the role in Wreaths Across America via some of your fellow America's Road Team members.
Yes, absolutely. America's Road Team's been involved for a number of years, and they send drivers to participate every year, and different companies send drivers. I know XPO this year has partners with Wreaths Across America to deliver and move wreaths for them. That when the opportunity came up and they asked me to go, it was exciting. I was blessed. It was, I don't know how much you know about it, but from the first day you show up, it's, there's a warehouse in Maine where all these wreaths are put together and they're trucked, and it's pretty much very rural. And this operation just goes on. There's just a giant warehouse. They're open 24 hours. They care for all the driver's needs. There's constant food, constant things to drink, showers around the clock, places to park trucks. Just parking 200 trucks it's a feat by itself. And I mean, when we pulled out that day, my wife was watching it, and she said it took over 15 minutes for us to clear the parking lot in that convoy. I don't know how long it stretched out, but it was farther than you could see in your mirror. The people that you meet, the drivers that are there, everybody there is happy and proud and excited to participate. Anytime you can surround yourself with so many people that want to do the same thing and are excited. That doesn't happen a lot. It's truly a special experience.
Yeah, far cry from everyday trucking over the road, I suspect.
Yeah,
not everybody is happy and wants to be there, right? Something that not a lot of people get to experience, and maybe it just gives us all something to just kind of strive for or shoot for in life, right? It's obviously not easy to achieve in any respect wherever you are, but you had this experience last year. How did it play out?
You start out in the convoy, and you're passing through all kinds of towns. You start out with the smaller towns. We have a full police escort all the way to Arlington.
Okay.
The job that they do, the job that Wreaths does, and law enforcement. It's such an organizational achievement. I mean, picture 200 vehicles going all the way down there, and you're not only going through small towns, but we were going through big cities like Philadelphia, New York. We're going through at rush hour, and you had police cruisers going through, closing down the ramps to the thruway, and we're just going through. We're rolling through small towns, spread out for miles across the road. Everything that and to do that on time, and we have different ceremonies along the way, and we're up against our 14-hour driving rule every day. Every day they've got that down to the minute. Didn't matter whether if it was traffic, if it was weather. Somehow they made the adjustment for the schedule, and we're doing 2 or 3 different stops, celebrations along the way, and they just ran that like clockwork. That part was unbelievable. If you want to know about the experience, itself, like I told you, it's an emotional roller coaster ride. When we started out, and you're going through these small towns, I had a Vietnam veteran ride with me. I know, somewhere in his 80s, and he wanted to ride. So I was in the ATA Workforce Heroes truck, which is a fully camouflaged show truck, just beautiful. And he wanted to spend a day and ride that, and he did with me. And the man spent, I don't know how many years in Vietnam, but he had some bad experiences. And to think a man like him, with everything he's seen, he came home and he was greeted with people throwing rotten tomatoes at him. That was his homecoming. So he got in the truck with me and another driver, and he started to open up and talk a little bit, about his experiences. And I just thought that was terrible what happened to him when he came home. So when we came up on the first town, there was, I could see off in the distance, the whole town was just lined with people, flags from one end to the other. And I asked him, I said, roll that window down. And I gave him a flag to hang out the window. And with that truck and that flag just flying in the wind, and as we started to go into town, the people went nuts. The kids were all out from school. They were just yelling and cheering. He was so excited, hanging out that window, and he's yelling to these people, saying thank you. He's thanking them. So you ride through the town, and you're just so excited and so happy, and you're just invigorated. And then as you get to the other end of town, there was a lady standing there who was holding up a sign, by yourself. And I didn't know what it said. I'm trying to read it, and I look in it, and it says, thank you. He says, you're carrying my brother-in-law's wreath. So you go from so happy, so excited, to your heart just kind of gets squeezed.
Right,
and it seemed like every day had an episode like that somewhere along the way. It was just a high, the low, and But it's like anything else, you did it and you wouldn't trade it for the world. It was just a wonderful, special experience. And I was so glad that man finally got a homecoming.
After the trip into Arlington National Cemetery, then, too, May ended up visiting the Vietnam Veterans Memorial with that same veteran, as he told the story.
I rode with him one day in a vehicle, and he said, would you go to the wall with me? To tour the wall. And I did. And he told me that his group, he was a radio operator, and he went over, and I believe he said in his group there was 100 soldiers. I said, do you have friends on the wall? And he said, 63. And it just makes you realize, it makes you realize what they give up. It makes you realize how fortunate we are. You wake up every day, you look at your schedule, you're going to go to work, you're going to get a job, you're getting married, you're going on vacation, all these things. And we all just wake up and we just take it for granted. We can do what we want. Well, we can do what we want and we're free because of them. Yeah. And I just think that gets overlooked a lot. I think that it should be more than, Veterans Day or, a convoy. It should be appreciated every day of the year. I'll tell you, if you ever get an opportunity to go to Arlington when it arrives, it's such an unbelievable experience. When we pulled in, it was freezing cold, and I think we got there early in the morning, 6 or 7 o'clock, and they opened the gates and let us in, and then they positioned us. I think we had over 300,000 wreaths. And I'm wondering how is this going to take place? How are we going to get all these wreaths placed out there? And when they opened the gates, I think there was over 3,000 volunteers that walked through. And it was, once again, it's just the way they coordinate everything. It's just unbelievable. And as a driver, I think the best thing is they take care of everything for you. It's like I said, between the escort and all the stops, every meal, they're on the ball with everything. There's no time, to have a mistake, and they don't let it happen. And it's just, right. it's quite an amazing an achievement that they do. But that day it's such to look over the cemetery and see the wreaths and see the effort and see the people that want to be there on that cold day. It really, it just makes you proud to be an American. Gives you a lot of faith in the country that the people are still there. So often you hear the ups and downs and negatives and whatever. But when it comes to the soldiers and what we stand for, to see the people there, it's refreshing. It's refreshing.
Certainly well said by David May, and a big thanks to the veteran and longtime professional trucker for joining us for his recollection of the big Wreaths Across America Day event rolling toward Arlington last year. If you participated in this year's event, culminating over this past weekend, in any of the more than 5,000 locations across the country this year, be in touch with us about your experience. We'd love to spread the word about what individual truckers are doing to serve that volunteer, remember, honor, teach mission of the Wreaths Across America effort, to really bring forward the respect within U.S. culture for the generations who've come before in public service. I'll share some past coverage of a variety of Wreaths events across the country that we've covered going back a decade and more in the post that houses this edition of Overdrive Radio for December 15th, 2025, and you can find links to some of those in the show notes for the podcast, otherwise, wherever you're listening. Overdrive Radio is on Spotify and SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts and YouTube, Overdrive's Facebook page, and any listening platform, really. Leave us a review there if you're enjoying these, and here's a big thanks in advance for it. Overdrive Radio is a production of Overdrive, the voice of the American trucker. It's edited and produced by me, Todd Dills, with the acoustic guitar and other support of trucker-songwriter Long Haul Paul Marhofer. The theme is Legend of the Snake Man by Marhofer, featuring the guitar work of Travis, the Snake Man himself, Whammock. Terry Two Socks Richardson on bass, keys by Tishomingo Jim Whitehead, and on drums, Andrew Marshall. The podcast is backed up further by Overdrive's own social media coordinator, Jasmine Campbell, senior editor Matt Cole, Executive Editor Alex Lockie, and video editors Lawson Rudisell and Andrew Glenn. We'll see you next time.